The baby princess was born with a very rare condition, which made half of her skin dark as the rich, fertile soil of Ayen, and the other half as bright as the morning sun. Queen fearing what the king would do to the princess if he ever found out about her unique skin condition, pleaded with the midwife to keep the best defect a secret, and the midwife promised the queen never to breathe a word of what she had seen to anyone. Once upon a time in the prosperous kingdom of Akan lived a very powerful king who ruled the people with iron feasts. King Obot was feared around the village and was known to behead anyone who went against his commands. He was known as a king of perfection, and his subjects always ensured to present him with the best of everything. His food, his clothes, up to the way his hair was cut, had to be perfect, and King Obot spared no one who jeopardized his perception of perfection. One seemed to behead his servant, who mistakenly poured a bowl of soup on his robe while out serving his dinner one night, and the entire village trembled at the sight of the king. One day, King Obot caught sight of a very beautiful woman in the village. She was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen, and the sight of her screamed perfection. Her name was Me and the King. On sighting her, decided to make her his queen. Although M was from a very poor family, the king ensured that she was groomed by the best hands in the kingdom on how to live like the perfect queen that he so wanted. Am, beautiful and graceful, adapted well to her new life in the palace, taking every lesson to heart and exceeding the king's expectations. In every regard, however, M missed the simplicity and freedom of her former life. She felt caged in the palace and longed for the days when she could roam the village freely, laughing aloud, with no care in the world, unable to speak her mind without fear or retribution. One day, Queen M snuck out of the palace to surprise her old friends in the village. She had not set her eyes on them in months and had to go in search of them. She hoped to return before the king noticed that she was away, but this did not happen. As King Obot strolled to her chamber and realized that she was not in her room, he ordered his guard to look for her, and after hours of searching, they found Queen M in the company of her male friend, Adid Young, who had been her friend right from when they were kids. King Obot was so furious to hear that his wife, the queen, was found in the company of another man, a young woman named Eong, had approached the king to reave that she saw Queen M and the young man I.D. Young in a very compromising position. The king, on hearing this, flared up in anger as he could not believe what he was hearing. He ordered that his wife MM and the said man be beheaded for tainting the royal bloodline with imperfection. Queen M and her friend Edong pleaded for their lives, revealing to the king that they were innocent, but the king's mind was a rest already made up. The king's guards took the queen and the young man to the execution chamber to carry out the king's others when an old wise woman approached the king to reveal that the queen was with child. She wanted that Edidon was innocent, and that if anything happened to the queen or the child, the whole kingdom would pay dearly for it. And the king, on hearing this, spared their lives. Queen M was so devastated as she saw her life flash before her eyes. She could not believe that she was almost killed by her own husband. The king, she lived in the palace terrified of the king, and as the months went by, her pregnancy progressed smoothly without any complications. One night, Queen went into a painful labor. Her personal midwife, an old, kind woman who had Person Al looked after her all through her pregnancy, stood by her side as she gave birth to her baby. Her labor lasted for so many hours, and Queen Am ended up having her child, a very beautiful baby girl with a distinct feature that anyone had ever seen. The baby princess was born with a very rare condition, which made half of her skin dark as the rich, fertile soil of AKA, and the other half as bright as the morning sun. Queen fearing what the king would do to the princess if he ever found out about her unique skin condition, pleaded with the midwife to keep the best defect a secret, and the midwife promised the queen never to breathe a word of what she had seen to anyone. Queen M then went on to use makeup to conceal a part of her baby's body to hide her bird defect from the world. Once she was done, she carried her beautiful princess and offered to the king, who was so delighted to meet his daughter, a beautiful princess who looked perfect in all ramifications. King Obot, upon seeing the swaddled princess, felt a surge of pride which softened his heart. His daughter, Princess Itoro, became his weakness, as the king loved her. With all of his heart, she was so perfect to him, and the king called her his perfect princess. As the years passed, Queen noticed that her daughter's skin defect was becoming more pronounced. She would spend hours every day covering up one half of the princess's body, teaching her daughter, the princess, that her beauty was a gift from God and a mark of distinction and strength. However, knowing the king's temper and his obsession with perfection, the queen could not risk putting her beloved daughter in harm's way. She wanted the princess never to leave her room without her approval, and for years Queen successfully kept her daughter's unique feature a secret, until one faithful day, Princess Itoro was asleep when she mistakenly hit down a lamp which fell on her bed, causing a little fire. The heat from the fire woke her from her sleep, and Princess Itoro ran out of her room screaming in terror. The palace guards rushed into her chamber to put out the fire, which did a whole damage to the princess's bed. The sound of Princess Itoro's loud scream woke her father, the king, who left his chamber to know what had happened. It was in that moment that the king was confronted with the sight of his daughter in her true colors. Princess too stood before her father bear with no makeup on, and the king cringed at the sight of his daughter's two-toned skin. The queen, realizing that her secret had been exposed, pleaded with the king for mercy. Lost for words, the king retired to his chamber, leaving the queen and the princess, who now feared for their lives. "We need to leave the palace immediately," the queen whispered to her daughter, the princess, as they both sneaked out of the palace and found their way out of the village. Queen knowing how upstairs the king was with perfection, could not stand aside and watch any hand before all her beloved daughter, who had no control over how she was born. They journeyed far away and arrived a very small village. As they walked the streets of the village, a young woman approached them, revealing that the entire village had been waiting for them for a very long time. It happened that a prophecy was given so many years ago, even before the princess was born, of the arrival of a girl born of two worlds, who had the power to open up the doors of their palace, which had been shut for years. She revealed to them that their village had been without a king or queen for so many years because of a great tragedy that befell the last royal family, who all died mysteriously in the palace. After their burial, another family took over the throne, and on their first night in the palace, they also died mysteriously, bringing fear upon the people, who later returned and found the palace door mysteriously locked. All efforts to open the palace door Folktale, as the villagers received a prophecy of a girl born of two worlds, who would break the curse and restore the prosperity of the village. The young woman revealed to Itoro that she was the girl that they had been waiting for all these years, and the villagers, on hearing of her arrival, gathered in mass to welcome her into their village. She approached the doors of their palace as the people gathered around her to see if truly she was the chosen one that they had been waiting for all this, while they all said silent prayers as they eagerly hoped for the best IU with her DW skin tone that mirrored the duality of the world, placed her hands on the ancient doors, and noticed something remarkable happened. The doors, which had resisted all attempts to open them for years, swung open as if welcoming her home. It was as if the palace itself recognized Itoro as it threw Inheritor, and the entire village jubilated in joy. Inside the palace, it was then shown the reason why the former inhabitants of the palace died mysteriously. The spirits revealed to her that the first royal family that died took the life of an innocent orphan who once served them as a maid. The that buried her in her maid's quarters, and no one talked about her again. Itoro revealed that the angry spirit of the young maiden was behind all the terrible deaths in the palace, as she vowed never to allow anyone without a pure heart to rule the kingdom again. However, the young maiden was pleased with Itoro and allowed her to inhabit the palace for days without any hand befalling her, and the people were amazed as they went on to crown Itoro as the queen of their village. Itoro then held his solemn ceremony in honor of the slain maiden, whose spirits finally vacated the palace and rested peacefully. The curse was finally lifted, and the people rejoiced back in King Obot was now filled with regret as he heard of his daughter's ascension to the throne of another village harem, as the queen who broke the curse spread far and wide, bringing with it tales of her unique beauty and wisdom. King Obot realized that the imperfection he had feared was actually a gift of inestimable value. He learned his lesson never to judge by appearances again and sought to make amends. He journeyed to the village to see Itoro and begged for her forgiveness. Seeing her father so humbled, Itoro forgave him, and this was the beginning of a new chapter for both of their kingdoms. Queen Itoro became the most talked about monarch in the whole of the land, and her reign was never forgotten, as the people all loved and adored their unique queen. The prophecy had been fulfilled not by a girl who fit into the world as it was, but by one who transformed the world around her, and in every generation that followed the story of the Princess of Two Worlds was told, reminding the people that true beauty lies in the coexistence of our contrasts, and that unity and peace are found in the celebration of our differences. The lesson to be learned from this story is that we are all unique in our own different ways. Imperfection, as you may know, is actually perfection, being creative and beautiful. As no one in life is imperfect, learn to put yourself in the shoes of others and treat them the way you would like to be treated, as only then would you understand the true meaning of leaving. I hope you enjoyed the story. Subscribe and leave a comment. It helps us grow our channel. I'll see you in our next story. Bye.